Hey, welcome World Entertainment. And is Sydney Sweeney actually going to appear in James Bond? Because that's been a rumour for a while that her name was getting attached to be the next Bond girl. That's right, Bond girl, because that's what they're called. Not, well, just strong independent women. They're Bond girls. So, we're going to have a look because she got asked recently what her thoughts were on the whole rumours and stuff. And her response was interesting. Now, it doesn't confirm that she is in talks to star in the next James Bond movie, but she's not exactly denying it either. I think there could be reading in between the lines, but let's have a look. So, in Hollywood, some questions are just inevitable. For a rising star like Sydney Sweeney, being asked about James Bond is practically a rite of passage. But when she was recently put on the spot about becoming the next Bond girl, her reaction wasn't what anyone expected. While most actors have a standard, polished answer ready, Sydney's was different. It was a fascinating mix of hesitation, diplomacy, and unexpected ambition that tells us way more than a simple yes or no ever could. So first, let's set the stage. Sydney Sweeney is on an absolute hot streak with massive successes like Anyone But You, Euphoria, and The White Lotus. She has cemented herself as one of the most in-demand actresses of her generation. So, when the conversation turns to who will star in the next James Bond movie, her name is naturally at the top of many speculative lists. The role of the Bond girl is one of the most iconic in movie history, a title held by legendary actresses from Ursula Andress to Halle Berry and Eva Green. It can launch a career into the stratosphere, but it also comes with a complicated history, often criticized for being one-dimensional. So, for a modern actress, showing interest requires a very careful balancing act. The rumours around Sweeney got an extra boost after she was seen at the wedding of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. This is noteworthy because Amazon MGM Studios now has creative control over the Bond franchise. God help us all. While longtime producer Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson are still involved in a joint venture, I don't think so, Amazon is in the driver's seat. That connection, whether it's a coincidence or not, added a layer of intrigue to the gossip. So, when a reporter from Variety finally asked her point blank if the rumours were true, everyone was watching to see how she'd handle it. This brings us to the first and most telling part of her response, the silence. When asked to confirm the rumours, Sweeney didn't fire back with a candid answer. Instead, she hesitated. Her initial response was a simple, "I can't," followed by a 7-second pause. Then, "I don't know," followed by another 10-second pause. In total, that's 17 seconds of dead air. For anyone who has seen a media-trained actor, 17 seconds is an eternity. They are coached to be smooth and confident. A pause like that can be read in a couple of ways. On one hand, maybe she was genuinely surprised by the direct question. But what's more likely, and a lot more interesting, is that this was a calculated move. This wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a signal of caution. The caginess of her answer immediately suggests there might be something to the rumours. She seems to stop herself from saying something she wasn't supposed to. A quick no would have killed the story. A quick yes would have been a massive unauthorized spoiler. The long deliberate pause did something else entirely. It amplified the intrigue. It showed the question was significant and needed a very careful answer. That silence spoke volumes before she even finished a sentence. After that very long pause, Sweeney shifted into the more diplomatic phase of her answer. She said, "I've always been a huge fan of the franchise, and I'm excited and curious to see what they do with it." This is a classic, respectful answer. It honors Bond's legacy and shows she's paying attention to its future. It's exactly what you would say to keep the door open without committing. But then came the knockout line, When pressed on whether she would be interested if offered the part, she didn't just say yes, she said, depends on the script. So we're already hearing her kind of talking about the whole movie and like, hey, is it something I'd be interested in? Those pauses, they are the kind of questions of, well, did she do that on purpose because she knows she's actually involved? It would be weird if she was already involved with the Bond movie before they even have a James Bond, because questions immediately would rise to, why are you casting everyone else except James Bond for the next Bond movie? Now, there's also the thing of, the next Bond movie is not going to be anytime soon. We're probably looking at 2027, late 2027, probably the middle of 2028 before we actually get the next James Bond movie. So it's not like they're in this great big rush to start casting the Bond girls, but this rumor about Sydney Sweeney has been doing the rounds for quite a while, and the fact that now she's been asked flat out, hey, would you actually be in it? The fact that her answer was that kind of like, I don't know, maybe, blah blah blah, all those pauses, and then she says, I've been a fan and yada yada, and then when pressed again, she gives out the flat out answer of, it depends on the script. So it's the case of, she very well could be getting attached to it, could look at the script and go, yeah, no, that's not for me. Who knows? But at this stage, the fact that these rumors have been doing the rounds, the fact that she's been asked directly, and we still don't even actually have a James Bond at this stage, is weird, crazy, insane. But would she be a good fit for a Bond girl? Of course she would. Have you seen her? Of course she would. Don't be stupid. What would they do with her? Would she be the typical James Bond girl where she's like just a damsel in distress? Will they try and make her a badass? Who knows? At this stage, it's Amazon. It's going to be weird. I hate the fact they keep saying now, it's going to be traditional, but needs to be modernized. That doesn't work. You can't have it be traditional James Bond, but also made for the modern audience. Doesn't work. Sorry, but it doesn't. And they're probably going to find that out the hard way. But we'll have to wait and actually see what comes of this. We have to wait and see who exactly they have hired as James Bond. We know the director. We know the writer, Denis Villeneuve and Stephen Knight. So people are on board with them. But it's everything they're starting to say that has you concerned. So we'll have to wait and see what we come of this. But what do you guys think? Would you like to see Sydney Sweeney as a Bond girl? The way things go nowadays, Sydney Sweeney could end up being James Bond. Well, who knows? Let us know what your thoughts are on this. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.